We are going to get started. Thank you so much for joining. It's a little odd to just look at the camera, but know that I'm speaking to multitudes of people. But I really appreciate you joining, registering for this class. I hope that you leave today with lots of value, learning a lot of tips and tricks. I don't hold back. I share everything that I know. And I'll tell you that the hairstyle that I'll be teaching today, the tousled side braid, the way I created it has evolved over the years. And I'm very happy with where my techniques are at, rather where my the way I create this style. I like where it's at because it gives me the results that I want on all types of hair. Today's model is beautiful Shafna. We've been together since earlier this morning. I did her makeup. And the reason why I chose Shafna is because, first of all, she doesn't have long, well, she had long hair. I made her cut it. She needed to. She needed a good trim. So we don't have a lot of length. So we're not relying on Shafna's hair to create this style. To be honest, I can count on maybe 3 fingers the amount of times I've met a person whom I could create the same luxurious fullness with just their own hair. But to create this epic luxurious braid, we are going to need some help. So Shafna's hair naturally has it's like a medium texture hair. She doesn't have a lot of density, although it may appear so. For most people, unfortunately, it's the case, especially women. The density is usually lacking here. So I'm going to show you all of my tips and tricks on how to create this beautiful volume, fullness, thickness, and make it look like she has naturally really long and full hair. Okay. The most important pieces or additions that we're going to use to create this hairstyle today are, first and foremost, human hair extensions. This is very important. And like I said, I mean, if your client, if the person you're creating this hairstyle on has a lot of like long, thick hair, then you can get away without using extensions. But in this case, I'm using 220 grams of human hair extensions. And these are from the Extension Bar. I absolutely love the quality of their extensions. And this set is it's a seamless clip. So regular hair extensions tend to be a little bit bulkier. Not that it's a huge deal, but seamless really helps to, as the name suggests, seamlessly blend into the scalp, the hair, and any hairstyle you're creating. So like I mentioned, this is 220 grams of hair, and although it's not long, it does not need to be long. This is 20 inches. It's 20-inch long set. You will see though how I manipulate these extensions and how I place them to create a braid as long as we want. Okay. The second piece that I'm going to be adding as the base of this braid is synthetic hair extensions. And this is something that I have changed within the past year into my technique to really just make my job easier. What I used to do in the past, I would create a braid from the extensions itself and then create the style. It'll make sense what I'm saying soon. And then I evolved into using the synthetic braiding hair that, I mean, if you follow me, you'll know that I use this hair to create the bridal braid for Tamil Hindu brides, right? This is that hair. You can use this as well. The only reason I don't gravitate towards this anymore is because it's really difficult to create a graceful tail, okay? This synthetic hair that I'm using, hair to crochet into the hair for braiding, and I get this at Chlore Beauty Supply. These extensions, they come in different wave patterns. This is an 18-inch length, but we have to consider that while 18-inch may not sound long, for the style that I'm creating today, ultimately this will be placed at the nape of her neck. So all in all, we are going to get really good length here, and I feel like this is sufficient. If you want to create an even longer braid, then you can get 2 sets of these extensions, and you could just untie it here at the base and just create that base higher up so that once you incorporate it into her hair, you get all of this length, okay? So to clarify, the reason I like to use this hair is because it looks like human hair, although it's not, it looks like human hair. It just can't be styled because it's synthetic. But once I apply this here, the tail end of the braid already looks like it's natural human hair and it's curled. So having said that, once I incorporate the extensions, I'm going to weave it into the braid, and that'll take away from the slight artificial finish that the synthetic hair has, because it's a little bit too shiny, and her hair isn't as shiny, nor are the extensions. You know, human hair naturally doesn't have the same shine. So I don't know if you can tell the difference, maybe if you could zoom in, but the synthetic hair is super shiny and the natural hair isn't. I mean, if you really don't have access to human hair extensions, you could easily just work with something like this. But if you do have access to it, then we are going to incorporate all of these together and weave it into the hair to cover the synthetic, but still, even if you were to peek through in certain areas, it wouldn't be a big deal. So far, we have human hair extensions. I'll be using synthetic crochet. This is called the deep wave. Ocean wave. It's not as curly as something like this, for instance. Let me show you the difference. Here's another set that I have, and this is called deep twist, okay? So the curl pattern is much deeper and much smaller than this. The pattern and the curls that I want to create on the braid will mimic this one more closely, or rather this mimics those curls more than this. So if you are creating, however, a look that will work with your client's natural curls, then something like this would be more appropriate, okay? So you just want to keep everything in harmony to make sure that all the curves, the movements, the waves will be all in harmony. Let's talk about hair prep, okay? When I'm working with my clients, I ask them to wash their hair the day before our session, and the washing needs to happen a certain way. You need to ensure that your client is first using a shampoo that is free of silicones, because silicones tend to coat the hair, coat the cuticle, basically doesn't allow the hair to get as much volume when styling. So you want to use ideally a cleansing shampoo, like a clarifying shampoo, to remove all the buildup, product buildup. You'd be surprised how people, when they use the wrong shampoo, they don't even realize that their hair isn't necessarily oily, but they're just not washing it properly, you know? So when washing the hair, it needs to be rinsed thoroughly with shampoo twice, okay? So you do like one full rinse, one full lather, you know, just really get into the roots, rinse that off, and then do it one more time. And when it comes to conditioning the hair, I ask clients to condition from mid shaft to ends. Ideally, your client would have had a fresh trim to ensure that there are no dead ends, because honestly, it's so difficult to make dry ends blend with a hairstyle, depending on the level of damage. So if they've had a fresh trim, you want to condition the ends, mid shaft to ends, but avoid using conditioner on the roots because that really weighs the hair down and we won't be able to get as much volume as we want. One more thing that I forgot to mention is that in addition to the hair extensions, I will also be showing you how to incorporate hair padding into the style to create beautiful volume on the crown, okay? So here we have Shafna's hair perfectly washed, and I ask clients to, particularly if they have curly hair, to blow dry their hair smooth. And ultimately, it comes down to the tools they have at hand and their skills. It does not have to be perfect. If somebody really struggles with, you know, blow drying their hair or they don't have time, I always recommend that they just go get their hair like styled professionally the before at a salon to just get like a plain blow dry with no additional products. That way they don't have to worry about that and you can work with hair that is correctly prepped. ultimately, if I find that the texture that the client comes with isn't ideal, I'll just go over the sections with a blow dryer. But I highly encourage clients and guide them on how to prepare their hair correctly so that I can spend the precious styling time on the actual styling and not just prepping the hair. At times, clients may blow dry their hair in a way that isn't conducive to the hairstyle you'll be creating. For example, they may like really flatten this area, and it's really difficult to correct that through just like a curling iron or straightening iron or whatever hot tools you're using. So in that case, I recommend just wetting that section and blow drying it with a round brush to redirect the roots to where you want it to go. Shafna's hair is her hair naturally falls down the middle, but I'm going to do a side part, and her hair was blow dried in a way that I can just redirect the hair anywhere I want, and it'll work with me. So all I'll need is to just use my hot tools on her. Normally, I ask clients what side they're more comfortable with, what is their good side, and what would be their comfort level with having the braid on this side versus that side, right? Personally, this is my natural side. I think if I were to do a braid, also because I part my hair on this side, this is where I would want my braid to be sitting. In Shafna's case, she requested that the braid sit on this side, okay? So the most harmonious style I find works when we part the hair towards the same direction where the braid will sit, okay? The odd times, if the client requests, upon request, you can part the hair on this side and place the hair here. But you would need to really work to balance all sides of the style for this to work. Otherwise, the only thing we're going to incorporate into her hairstyle today is a tikka down the middle. And then I'll show you how to work with the hair all over and all the extensions to create pieces that will just keep the entire style balanced, okay? In the meantime, I'm going to show you how I'm going to section things off, okay? What I like to do is I like to just take a tail comb, okay? And I like to just take a section like this from the nape of the neck and just part it diagonally. This is what we need. We need to basically section off section off some hair, or we're going to incorporate our synthetic hair extensions. If you're working with a lot of hair, you can take a thicker section off, but ultimately, I like to just make this part a little bit lower because that will give us extra hair on this side to create that fullness on the style. So I'm going to pin this away. I'm using crocodile clips. And the tools that I'll be working with today, I'll be alternating between using a 1¼ inch curling iron versus a 1-inch curling iron. My larger barrel is from a brand called Mint Tools, and the smaller barrel is from Babyliss. And the reason why I use Babyliss for this, I love Mint Tools, but unfortunately they don't have a 1-inch curling iron without a clip. And the clip is very important when creating this style because it is with the clip that you can get the smoothest, cleanest ends on the hair. When you wrap the hair around on a barrel, just like a tong, you're holding that end, right? And I find that you really can't get that smooth, beautiful, wispy finish on the ends by using a tong. That's why I like to use a clip iron. So I'm going to I'm going to use a thermal setting mist, and this, the purpose isn't necessarily to protect the hair from the heat, although it's a great benefit, but this also has properties that allow the curls to hold better. So I like to just spray it. Oh, by the way, this is the Redken. It's called Hot Sets 22. And frankly, it's not that I'm committed to this product at all. I have it and I use it. All the hair products that I'll be using today, none of them are something that I absolutely can't live without. I'm constantly rotating the products that I'm using. I'm always searching for something better. So what I'm just saying is that don't stress if you don't have access to a certain brand or a certain product. You can work with whatever. In this case, I will show you how to use certain products to achieve certain results. In this case, like I said, her hair is a little bit staticky, and I want to basically make sure that all the strands of hair are unified when I curl it. So whenever you're spraying, hold it at a distance, okay? Don't go like this because that's going to drench the section. So you want to give it a good shake, especially when you're working with like liquid products. You want to give it a good shake, spray. And now I'm just going to very roughly curl this. I'm going to come back and curl it later, but I'm going to give it a curl, and I like to curl away from the face. Just if there's something you're going to remember today, is that to always curl away from the face. So this is what I mean, okay? See the end that sticks out here? You can really push it into the barrel, and once you release the hair, you'll find that this is beautiful, smooth, and the texture matches the overall curl. Again, I'm curling this section as well, and that's it. This does not have to be perfect by any means. I'm going to add a volumizing powder, and I'm using here the KYK Magic Dust Volume Powder. And this is a relatively new product in my kit, and I really enjoy it. I enjoy it because first, you get a lot of product in it. The only thing you have to be mindful of is that this, when you press on the pump, it can release too much product at once. I've learned to kind of control it, although you might see me mess up a few times today. But ultimately, it's a really nice texture for powder. Adds just enough grit, just how I like it. I've worked with volumizing powders that are too thick and dense and feel almost sticky on the hair. So I really like this. I'm just going to very lightly spray on the roots. And just give it a very light tease. Okay. Now I'm going to just use a regular hair elastic. I'm bringing this ponytail, I'm bringing this section to the side, okay? And just bear this in mind. Every technique that I'm showing you today can be applied to creating a a braid that is centered. It does not absolutely have to be to the side. Mostly the same techniques that I'm using, but to really maximize that length of the braid, I'm going to attach it to the side. Like I said, you can do it here and then bring it to the side, but I find that when you structure the side braid on the side, then it has a different effect and a different flow, okay? So I'm going to, and you'll also see why I'm using this thicker hair elastic in 1 second. You want to tie it securely. Okay, and now I'm just going to spray. As you can see, I have some flyaways here. I'm going to use the Sebastian Shaper Plus spray. I really like this because it's in a nice brushable hold, and it also adds shine to the hair as you're using. So like I said, you don't want to go too close. You never want to get too close when you're spraying hairspray. You don't want to drench and saturate the area with product. So I'm just also to protect the neck. Some people like to put capes around their clients. I find that when somebody's wearing an outfit this heavy, the last thing they need is another piece of, you know, cape on them. It gets too hot. But I'm also mindful when I'm spraying clients with hairspray. So I like to use my hand as a guide here, spray, and then I use my own hand to just push the hair down and then get rid of the flyaways. So when it comes to this piece, okay, it's not a lot of hair, and frankly, it's pretty lightweight. That's why I am comfortable using something like this, because it doesn't add too much weight to the hairstyle. Those are all things you need to consider, okay? It's one thing to create a beautiful style, but is it comfortable for the client to wear? Will she need Advil, you know, to wear the hairstyle? So this is a very nice lightweight piece. I'm not even going to remove this. I know it may look tacky, but it's not going to show ultimately. And I'm not going to just create additional work for myself. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take an elastic, the same style that I used here. I'm just going to loop it like this. Okay. So basically I'm placing it at the base here. So like I do this, and you can use whatever technique you want. I just find that this is easy. Then I take it, loop it, and I do this, okay? So now I have attached the elastic to the base, and with this, I can attach it to this. And like I said, there's a reason I use a thicker elastic here. It's because I want whatever I tie here to sit above this and not slide down. So I pass the elastic through that base here and just literally tie it into this little ponytail. You let me know if anything feels uncomfortable or hurts, okay? And that's it. So what I just tied, I pushed it in front of this elastic that holds the ponytail together. And now the braid is sitting exactly where I want it to sit, and it's giving us a rather dramatic length, which I love. Perfect. So once you have this hair here, I'm just taking it and I'm going to very lightly braid it. I'm not creating a tight braid. I'm just lightly braiding this now. See what I mean when I say light? So that when I lift this loop, there's space in between because I'm going to weave hair through it, okay? And at this point, okay, I'm leaving, I guess, like a good 4 inches of hair. This is where I'm going to secure my braid and just tie it. And for this, I'm using a tiny black rubber band. You want this to match the hair color. Passing it once, passing it twice, and passing it 3 times. And I passed it around 3 times, although 2 loops would hold it together. 3 gives me extra security so that if I ever inadvertently pull a loop, it won't come easily undone, okay? In this case, sometimes the hair might get tangled, or because it's just like one long strand that was folded in 2, you might get some extra like pieces here, in which case you just take some scissors and just cut it off. So do you see the value of using a piece like this? Because like this is basically the end of the tail, and I'm going to, again, like I said, add some extensions to add more natural texture to this. But say if you're using this hair, okay, which yes, it can give you a lot of density, it takes more effort to finish this tail off naturally, okay? If you say tie and end your braid here, you have all of this that you need to cover. If you bring your braid all the way to the end and you trim this, then you're going to have to use a lot of extensions to create a natural tapering off of the braid, so that you're not stuck with like a nice thick braid and then a few pieces of hair that come down here. Okay, so that's the reason why I really like to opt for hair like this. So all I'm going to do now is just add a light coat of hairspray on this braid. I'm not going to worry about this section just yet. And this is where we start to dress our braid, guys. As you saw, Shepna's hair isn't very long, so I can only rely on her hair to cover just the top part of the braid. So I'm going to use our set to start building the braid from bottom up, okay? A 220-gram set of extensions normally comes with 2 wefts with 4 clips, 2 wefts with 3 clips. We have 2 wefts with 2 clips. You see the pattern, right? And then we have 4 clips, or rather 4 wefts with a single clip, okay? So these are the pieces that we're going to start with. Because we're not working with a lot of volume here, we can manipulate these pieces much more easily. So what I like to do, another thing that I forgot to mention is that if you're using a brand new set of hair extensions, it is imperative that they be washed, okay, before use. When you get a new set of extensions and you take it out of the package, it looks like, you know, a decent amount of hair, shiny, silky, but as soon as you wash it, it takes on the texture of human hair. You will see, because it becomes a little bit frizzy and the hair expands, and that's because there is a silicone layer on brand new extensions to give it that shiny, silky, and attractive finish. But if you were to style those extensions, yes, they would style, but the style would not hold, and it would ultimately just, you'd lose the curl and it would become stringy and unnatural. So it's really important to wash the extensions. What I like to do is I wash the extensions, I hang them to dry. I mean, this is what you would do with your hair. You don't want to blow dry your extra wet hair. You want to essentially let it air dry to about 60% and then go in with a blow dryer to finish drying it off. Otherwise, you'll be damaging the hair and just making your job too difficult. It's unnecessary. So the easiest thing to do, I find, is after after they've dried a little bit, air dried, I take the Revlon hot brush, you know, that blow drying brush, which, yes, it's damaging to the hair, but I feel like when you're using it for something like hair extensions, like once in a blue moon, it's a very helpful tool. I'm going to show you the motion of it. Here I have like 4 1-clip wefts. I just turn it on, obviously, and then I'm just drying it like this. And this also helps to smooth the cuticle and straighten it so you don't have any kinks in it, okay? So this is a really easy way to prepare extensions. Yes, I agree, this tool can be damaging if you're using it excessively on your own hair. Make sure to use good heat protection. But when it comes to using for extensions, it's a very nifty tool. Clients get instructions on how to prepare their hair, but oftentimes they bring unfortunately wet extensions, like the extensions that they thought were fully dried, so they just packed it up, put it in a box, and then when I take it out, I can see that the roots, everything is still damp. And in order to not involve the client to help me, you know, hold the extensions while I blow dry, I just take this tool and just pass over them, and then I have beautiful, smooth, and straight extensions to work with. Okay, so as I mentioned, we're going to start with our 1-clip wefts. What I like to do, as much as you can, try to use product on the pieces away from your client as much as possible. So here I'm just going to hold it in the air and spray the section with my thermal spray, and already it helps to just bind all the hairs together and it will help me to prevent flyaways. So now that I sprayed this, I'm going to I'm going to take this section. I'm going to take a hardy piece of this braid. These are seamless extensions, so they're even easier to blend in to the braid. I'm just going to basically clip it on this section. Okay? This may look weird right now, but just trust the process. Now while it's clipped on, and mind you, you can do this, you can curl it individually and then clip it on, but it's difficult. And like I said, I like to not involve my clients as much as possible in the styling process because I want them to just relax and enjoy. So if it's clipped on well, like if you have grasped enough hair, then it shouldn't come out. And now I'm taking my 1-inch curling iron and I'm gonna curl this section. So you want to make sure that as you're feeding the hair through the barrel, you have secure grasp of the hair, okay? And sometimes you may have to hold on to this end piece to make sure that it doesn't escape the barrel. Now just like hold it in and make sure that the end is fed in so that you get that nice smooth finish. And now as I release the curl, do you see that? So I'm going to spray this section. And there's a reason I'm using a brushable spray here is because I can layer it and it will make the hair crunchy. So I'm spraying, as you can see, and just I keep twisting the hair because this helps to bind the hairs and to, again, just tame those flyaways. Alternatively, you could use an antifreeze cream like this, for example. This is Osis, and it is called Tame Wild Smoothing Antifreeze Cream. It's just like an additional product. And like I said, if you're working with hair that is like super static or super frizzy and needs to be tamed more, something like this really helps. My only hesitation in using something like this is that it makes my hands dirty and I need to constantly clean to touch new tools, you know? So I like to simplify my life whenever possible. But I'm telling you, there are cases where I feel like I absolutely need to use something like that to really help control the flyaways. So now what we're going to do, if you can zoom in here, Pran, I'm going to take this hair. I'm opening this section. And again, you guys, like when you're recreating this hairstyle, you don't have to repeat every single step that I do. You have to understand the gist of what I'm doing. And then that's the thing, you can never recreate the same exact hairstyle. Something like this will look different every single time. But if you understand what to do, what the techniques are, then you can just create your own masterpiece. So what I'm doing is I'm just looping this hair through in here, okay? And I'm basically following the movement of the curl. If this curl is going this way, then I'm not going to force it to go the opposite way because it's just not going to sit right. So once I did this, I'm going to bring it around one more time. And now I'm going to lift this rubber band. No, it's not lifting. Okay, so we're not going to pass it through the rubber band. Instead, I'm going to take this hair. I'm using a regular bobby pin, okay? Basically, this loop that's happening right here, okay, I'm going to pass the bobby pin through and then I'm going to bring it around like this and just pass it through the rubber band because I already know that the rubber band is a nice secure base for this bobby pin to pass through. And do you see that not only did I just cover the rubber band, but the curl is just like enveloping this end piece right here. And this is just like one small one clip weft that I incorporated. And when you layer the hairspray as you go, you just get more security. Okay? So this is all going to be covered. We just needed to place it as low as possible. So this is step one. We're going to repeat this. Again, I'm saturating this hair with the thermal mist. And I'm going to show you how you can just curl and then incorporate. Might be easier. It's manageable with a one clip extension because there aren't other parts of the extension that are falling. So this is where you can get away with doing that. And what I like to do is I just take it, drag it, do you see what I mean? It's like so important for that end to go into the barrel, okay? You hold it for like 5 seconds or so. I mean, these extensions are such great quality. They style so easily and so well. Just like release it into your hand. Have this beautiful curl. I give it a spray. And I just use my fingers to work that spray into the curl. I'm doing this one more time. What I do love about this hairspray is that it doesn't leave any residue. Some stronger hold hairsprays actually do, so you have to know how to work with them. But this, you can just like layer and layer. And I find that that really helps to tame the frizz and flyaways. And now, again, you want to just work with the direction of the curl. What I'm going to do here is, actually what I can do in this case is attach it to the back of the braid. It doesn't always have to be at the front. I'm going to attach it to the back. And once I do that, I can see that the curl is now coming this way, okay? So like I mentioned, I'm going to work with the direction of the curl. And in this case, what you can do is, look, you take this loop that we created here, okay? And I'm going to pass this section through that loop, okay? When we weave the hair into the hair, you're minimizing the use of bobby pins that you're using. And that alone helps you create a cleaner style without pins showing. Because to me, that's a big faux pas. So now that I passed that through the loop, okay, the hair is still coming in this direction. So I'm going to take another bobby pin, pass it through the hair section. And now I'm going to, again, the same way we did the previous section, just pin it like this. And look how lovely and natural the end of our braid is looking already. So when I'm creating a braid, I like to work on creating a style, a braid that goes from thicker to slightly thinner. So it's not just like one massive lock, you know. You want it to taper out towards the end a little bit. So we have 2 more single clip wefts left. So I'm going to quickly curl and incorporate those. And you can already see where this is going. We're going to basically build this all the way up, intertwining the hair, basically weaving it in. Are there any questions so far, guys? Please leave some comments. It's a good time to ask. This is an 18-inch that I used. At the store, they may have longer pieces, so you can just buy a longer braid and then start building that braid with the extensions from lower, okay? Ultimately, all it does is shifts the placement of your actual human hair extensions. But if you can't find hair like this that is longer than 18 inches, then you can just double this, so you get 2 of these, and then just add the second piece here and tie at the base here, and then attach it like this, okay? And then like I said, you would start to build your braid with the extensions by incorporating the pieces lower down on the braid. So it's just like a client preference. I have done like super epic braids that I've used much longer pieces. And then, so if somebody wants a braid like that that goes way below the bum, you can just take this, double to add more volume to it, and then do that. And as I said, if you're using hair like this, and you have a set of extensions that you find isn't gonna cover your braid fully, then it's not a big deal, because this still looks like hair. It still looks like human hair, and if it peeks through places where extensions didn't cover, it'll still work. When it comes to human hair extensions, like the extension bar extensions that I'm using, I would say that 95% of my clients purchase their own set because it's a worthwhile investment to make, and they can use these extensions for other events. And especially if they have multiple bridal events, then it makes absolute sense, right? But there are the odd cases where clients have no use for the extensions and they don't want to make that investment, so they rent it from me. I have a few sets that I rent out to clients, and then of course after they return it to me, the way I go about that is I charge a rental fee, and I also take a deposit. And that deposit is reimbursed when client returns extensions. And honestly, it's people need an incentive excuse me, to return extensions, because otherwise they won't. People just forget about things and move on with their lives. But if they know that they have $250 to get back, they will bring you the extensions the next day. That's just how it works in my experience. When it comes to extensions like this, though, I provide them. I wouldn't expect the client to go to the store and buy. They don't know what they need to buy. And this is something, I mean, this costs $7, and I think that's something that can be worked into your pricing, and you can charge accordingly so that it makes sense for you to provide them. If your clients really don't have use for this, so you can ask for them back, but because you can't really wash them, you just want to have sanitary practices as much as possible, right? So this is just something that I give away and forget about it. So the hairspray, to answer your question, the hairspray that I'm using right now is the Sebastian Shaper. And this is a really nice brushable hairspray that I can layer, and it doesn't leave residue. And it also adds shine to the hair as you're working through it. So it's a really nice one to create the process. And then I use a different setting spray to fixate everything. So to reiterate, the reason I like to start from the bottom up is that, first of all, it's very important to get this ending right, okay? You can create a beautiful hairstyle that has all these intricate details, but I think like one of the most visible parts that the eye goes to usually is the end of the braid. And if you haven't spent the time to refine this section, you can end up with just like a rat tail end that is really difficult to make it look good at the end. And also, I have a lot of hair to invest in this top piece. But if I start to use all my extensions, all my value basically here, and then I end up with a lot of like beautiful density, then I'll have to reshuffle things to bring it to the end, okay? So this way, there are so many more pieces to go. So I'm going to just like layer so that I get as much fullness as I want. And then I have her actual head of hair to come and add volume here, you know? So it doesn't make sense to start here and then be left with a really lackluster braid end. Ultimately, things change. Like what I do changes from time to time, case to case basis. But if you find a technique that works for you, if you find a pattern that works for you, then by all means do that, right? Whatever works with the results that you're trying to achieve. But I feel like sometimes you just have to create a hairstyle several times to know where to invest more extensions and where not to, where to invest more time and where not to. I take time. Honestly, guys, I take time, and especially when conversation is involved, those are things you have to take into account. I would say like a good 2 hours, but it's absolutely possible to do it in an hour and a half, or some people just are, they work fast. I mean, I know some artists who do incredible work in such a short period of time, but that's just not how I work. You have to, you know, really be self-aware and enough time that it takes. I I've heard so many times people say that, oh, my clients only give me this much time, but especially if it's like a bride and it's in their best interest to look fantastic, right? Then they need to give you the amount of time that you need to create the kind of result that they would be happy with. So I think you need to, you know, have a say in how much time can be dedicated to that. Okay, all right, we're gonna move along, guys. I have my curled piece here. Again, I'm going to add hairspray to it, using my fingers to work that hairspray into the section. And now I'm going to add this right here. We're still working at that level because we have a lot of hair to add still. And now I'm just going to bring this around. I'm taking a piece of hair here from the braid, and I'm just going to loop it in, okay? So what I'm doing is, as you can see, I passed my fingers through. Now I'm going to grasp the extension piece and then just like loop it through, okay? And I'm going to bring it around one more time. And this time I'm going to point the bobby pin down for no good reason, really. It's just like whatever the hair dictates. And I'm going to pass that through. Okay. I'm sorry, guys, if I clear my throat too often. My voice has been very raspy for 2 weeks. I don't like to listen to it, but it is what it is. Now I'm going to add the final single clip weft. Giving it a nice curl. And as you can see, guys, when it comes to doing this, I'm just releasing this barrel bit by bit, okay? Because if I do this, it's gonna escape it very quickly. So I feel the resistance. Once I feel the resistance, then I just release slightly, move it, and wrap it. But let's be real, how often do you actually curl hair on the fly like this? Usually it's attached to the head, right? If you wanted to, you could pre-curl these extensions to save yourself time and then add it to the braid. I like to sometimes complicate my life and just do things as I go, but I also find that it gives me control to curl the hair in the direction where I feel like it needs to go to really just complete the pattern of the braid, okay? But ultimately, if I had these extensions pre-curled, I would work with them as well. So that could save you a lot of time, and that's something you may want to consider doing. And here I'm going to clip it also at the back, bring it around. In this case, I'm just going to pin it. Because I'm looking at this braid, and it's kind of like a puzzle, right? You're building a puzzle. I see that this section needs to be a little bit wider, so I'm going to pin this part in a way so that it fills this gap. And then what happens with this curl is I can bring it around, or I can just like let it drop like that, you know? But I'm going to bring it around and just give it another pin. That's it, I'm just passing it through. Okay, and again, you have to trust the process because we're gonna bring a lot more hair down here. So next, we have 2 and 3 and 4 clip wefts left here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to set aside one of the 2 clip wefts because I want to incorporate it on this side later on, okay? So I'm going to set it aside so I don't take it by mistake. So I'm going to use the other 2 clip though. And to clarify why I'm starting from the lowest clip wefts to the highest higher up is because I have less hair covering these, right? So as I go up, I can use the wider piece and then it'll give me more hair to add. And then I can make the braid fatter as I go. So in this case, it might be a little bit tough to curl the section because it's wider. So I'm going to attach it to her braid. And in this case, you're going to have to wrap it around. So I do one clip here, and then the other clip naturally comes and clips to the back. So now, you take the hair, I'm going to curl it. Something that you have to come to terms with is that when a client is wearing a heavily beaded top like this, it's impossible for the braid to remain perfect because these pieces pull on the hair. It's just how it is, you know? So you have to do your part in ensuring that every single section is secure and set, but naturally these pieces are gonna pull on some of the braid. Okay, so we've curled this section. Now I'm going to curl this part. You want to make sure that you capture all the hair from that weft. And I'm going to curl this in the opposite direction because I want to give myself the possibility to just wrap this hair in a different direction. Any questions? Chris?
Can you explain how to do this style if the client has natural long and thick hair?
Basically, what you would do, well, honestly, like it would be a different structure. It would be a different structure altogether. But what you need to keep in mind is that you need to create a braid as a base, okay? That you don't have to use all of the hair. You can use some of the hair to create a braid. And then if she has like long hair, then you can bring and curl those pieces like from the rest of her hair and just like intertwine it the way I'm doing with the extensions into the braid. And that should give you a very similar result. Okay, so now with this, as you can see, the curl is going this way. So I'm going to just dig a hole in the braid here and just loop this hair in, okay? I'm using my finger. I just looped it in, and the reason why I like to loop it in at times is because then I can control if I want to pull some of this out or not, okay? So once again, I'm taking this piece, opening a section in the braid. This is annoying to do with nails because the nails just catch hairs. So again, I'm taking this piece and just looping it through. And now I can take this and expand it. And this is how we can really amplify the size of the braid without adding a lot of hair, because there can be a good amount of air in there. It can be like an airy braid. But the key is to just avoid adding a lot of density, because that also means adding a lot of weight to the style. Now I'm taking a bobby pin and just pinning this through like that. Boom. Okay, do you see how beautiful that looks? Very natural. I mean, if I do say so myself, I don't know if you agree. And now we have this section. That I can do the same thing with. I'm going to take a piece from here, just open a hole, and I'm going to loop this through. Now I can do this. And then I'm going to pin this part. Like this. Okay. Then I can bring this in. I'm going to pin it. And you know, you guys can see that once I've passed a pin through the hair, I'm not opening the bobby pin anymore, okay? Because this way, once you dig it into the hair, it's not going anywhere. Okay, so I'm loving how this is looking. Again, if I do say so myself. Yeah, people agree? Great. And once again, if you see these, don't worry about that, because we have so much more hair to bring down still. Okay. Now I'm going to take my 3-clip weft. You know what? I'm going to spray it first before attaching it to her, again, to avoid getting product on her outfit and her skin. So now I am going to, I can see now that I don't need to add any more detail here. So if I clip this a little bit higher up, then I'm kind of calculating visually that once I wrap my curls around, it'll help me cover this part. Okay, so that's what you want to keep in mind. So I clip one to the front, then bring it to the back. And this one also is like slightly going up. Okay. I'm going to separate this weft into 3 different sections that I'll be curling. And I like to start from the front one. I feel like visually, I'm always drawn to just finishing what's in front of me and then taking care of what's not as visible. I'm going to just, you can use a bit of hairspray as well. The only downside to using hairspray before you curl is that hairspray ends up coating your barrel, and then you lose that smoothness with which the hair passes through the barrel. So again, you want to make sure that you get those ends in. I can't stress it enough. I release this curl. I give it a spray. Okay, now I'm going to curl these. It's very important that you brush or comb through the section before curling, because sometimes the product may make the hair stick in certain areas, or if the strands are not aligned, then you're going to get certain kinks in the curl, which is something that would contribute to an ultimately not so clean hairstyle, right? It's super important that this braid is clean, because this is the star of the show, and that's where the eye goes. Any questions? Mm-hmm.
What question do you ask a client during the consultation?
What questions do I ask the client during consult? Well, first of all, I like to understand their scalp sensitivity. Some people have really sensitive scalps, which means that you can't use a lot of extensions or add a lot of extra weight to their hair. Okay, so something like this might hurt them ultimately. I also like to understand what their vision is, what the theme of their party is. You want to offer your expert advice. Of course, you have to kind of gauge it client to client. But sometimes clients want what they want. If it's something impossible that it truly won't be possible with their hair, or you just wouldn't recommend it, like if somebody wants to have beautiful voluminous curls on very long hair on a hot summer day, that's something that I will like steer them away from no matter what, because that's just like the recipe for disaster. Like that will not last, and they won't be pleased in the end, right? And I find that once you communicate that clearly to clients, they're flexible. More often than not, they're flexible, and they will listen to your advice, because again, it's in their best interest to look great on their special day. But for a style like this, again, I communicate to the client what it takes to create a hairstyle like that. And for instance, if they don't want to make the extra investment of purchasing extensions or renting extensions, then you have to manage their expectations on what's possible, right? With what you're given. So if somebody sends me the most luxurious epic braid, but they neither have the length nor density for it, and they are not interested in buying extensions, then it's just not a realistic expectation for them to expect something like that with their hair, I hope that answered your question. So what you saw me guys do here is I just looped it through the hair, and now I'm using that to expand this piece. And now I'm going to create another detail here. And you want to make sure that once the pin goes through, it goes through the hair, okay? It doesn't come and like stick out from the air and you don't notice that. So this first piece, we did that. I like to leave the pieces that are just like wisps and a more realistic length. This to me is too loose and too long to let it release like that. So I would take this, either loop it into another piece like this. See, once it's intertwined, it looks a bit more natural and it'll stay in place than if you just let it loose and it goes all over. Now I'm taking this piece, I'm going to pass a pin through. Just going to come to the other side for a sec. I'm passing this pin through. I'm just like pinning it here. And if you pin it and you don't like how it looks, you can go back, undo it, and pin it where it does look good, okay? So like don't settle for anything less than perfect. Okay, so I'm gonna take care of this piece as well and then see what I'm doing with the rest of these pieces. Okay. It's taking everything in me to not open these bobby pins with my teeth. My dentist has strictly prohibited that. Okay, so now I'm gonna take this piece. Do you see how it's like asking to go here? I'm gonna listen to it. Boom. I'm gonna take this. Be mindful, guys. Sometimes some pins are defective, and if you do this, it might just like stretch and stay open like that. Obviously, don't use that pin because you need something that has good grip. So I'm gonna take this and just, what we're doing sometimes is we're artificially inflating that piece and then pinning it in place. Okay? And here I have some long pieces that need a home. We need to find them a home. I'm gonna loop it in. Okay? And then I'm gonna pin this in because I find that that will be the best place for it. Again, I'm taking it here, pinning it in place. Oh, see, that already looks so incredible, if I do say so myself. Gonna give it a nice coat. Right. Okay, so what I have left in my hands, you have to kind of take a step back and just gauge what you're doing. I have another 3-clip weft and 2 more 4-clip wefts here that I have yet to incorporate, okay? So if you can show the overall look, I'm gonna clip this basically 2 more inches above that piece, or maybe even a little lower. Because you guys don't understand, we still have so much hair to bring down here that's gonna create that beautiful, nice fat piece. So I can even like place this exactly where the other one was and keep adding more density to that part. I'm gonna clip that just a little bit above, just so that I'm not layering the clips. And as I did with the previous one, I'm just gonna separate it into 3 different sections. There's one section that belongs to this side. And another that belongs to the other side. Gonna comb this through. Another coat of our thermal spray. You know, don't neglect the root of the weft, okay? Because you can raise that root when you go closer to it. So this is what I mean. Like I wouldn't stop here, but I can go as close to the root as possible to get that extra kind of lift in this curl so that I can create more movement. Bit of spray. All right, so here I want to create a bit of volume here. So I'm going to pass the pin through. And then I'm going to, sure, like this? Perfect. So I'm going to show what I did once again, guys. There's this like empty spot here, and we have this like nice thick section. So I'm taking this, passing a pin right through. And you know, sometimes when you're working with like wider sections, you can use a jumbo bobby pin, which is, I believe, 2 3/4 inches long, to show you the difference in length. I honestly, this is actually something that I can't live without in my hair kit, because when it comes to securing the hair, it just does such an incredible job. So this is a regular bobby pin, and this is a jumbo bobby pin. And this can grasp more hair and like really hold it securely. So let me show you when I'm working with a really thick section of hair here, so I need something a little more heavy duty. So I'm passing this bobby pin through here, and you can kind of drag it down a little bit. And now I'm gonna give it a twist and then cross it through the hair here. Okay, and once I've done this, I can just go in here and pull on the hair, and now we've filled that empty spot there. Okay? But because this holds and secures the hair so well, I can just manipulate the pieces by pulling on them like that. And now I'm going to take a regular size bobby pin, because at this point, the hair is not nearly as thick and dense, okay? I'm going to pass this through, and I'm just going to pin this down here. All right? So see like how much we filled that space with that one trick. Now, I'm going to treat this side. So now, again, because I'm working with a thick piece, I'm going to pass a bobby pin through. Let me just go to the other side. And now I'm going to take this and just dig it in here. Now I can take this and expand it like that. And I'm going to take another pin and fill this part. And do you see how we have these pins visible here? That's how we're going to come and just cover it with this section. Okay? Now I feel like this is sticking out a little too much, so I'm going to take a pin without opening it and just push that in to help it join the base section of the braid. And here I still see this peeking through, so I can take this pin, come just grab another section of hair, and just cover it up. Okay? So now we have this section that is asking, it's begging to go here. So that's what we're going to do.
Puzzle, fitting it in.
Exactly. I love it. It's like building blocks, literally. So this is why I like to curl the hair as I go, because it really helps me kind of determine the direction it's going in. And okay, I don't know what's happening with this piece, but like the curl has a mind of its own. So I'm going to take it and recurl it so that I get exactly the movement that I need. Okay? Okay, now once the curl is in the right direction, it like does half the job for you, because you let it go, it's like, no, take me here, you know? So that's what happens. Okay, see what just happened? Defective. Fran coming to zoom in to show a defective pin. So just be mindful of that, because sometimes you could like take it, pin it without realizing that this is what happened, and then that pin is going to come undone and this piece is going to come undone. So just be mindful of that. Sometimes I buy like a box of bobby pins that it's such a bad batch, and like every other one that I use is defective. Okay. So that's that. And then another thing you can do is once you've pinned that section in, you can just go in and expand it. Okay? You can go and manually expand those pieces. Mm-hmm. All right. Now we're going to move on to our forklift wefts. Now I'm going to pin this a little bit above. Just wrapping it around. Okay, so once again, I'm going to separate it into one section on each side and then further separate those into two sections. We're going to spray the section away from the client. So what I'm noticing here is I have a little bit of product buildup. So I'm going to clean that up. You have to periodically do that because your curls are gonna start suffering. And you also just start to ruin your tools. So take care of your tools, guys. So here we have this section. Do you guys see how I'm spraying from the top and from the bottom? Because now as I go up, I'm working with larger sections. I'm working with larger sections because I don't need to create too much intricate detail now. So this is where I'm going to take the bobby pin, jumbo pin. And I'm pinning it down here. Honestly, as long as you're not opening your pin and as long as it's crossing enough hair, it doesn't matter much whether it's pointing up or down, okay? If your pin is defective and it's like pointing up, then it's going to slide down and fall. This way the gravity would certainly help it, but if it's loose, it's loose. However, if you're using a bobby pin that has good grip and you've captured a lot of hair that is crossing through, you can go diagonal, up or down. It won't make a huge difference. As I said, it will save you a lot of time if you do curl the extensions beforehand. As I mentioned, I like to curl as I go because I'm basically just determining where each piece is going. And it helps me. But like I said, you do what you need to do. If you feel like this is a style you need to create but you don't have a lot of time, then you can certainly take those steps to make the process easier for you. So this is one piece. Any other questions?
Your styles are always smooth and frizz-free. what are some of your top tips and products for hair, or for this specific hairstyle, and specific hairstyle, and products?
The first thing that is very helpful is making sure that the extensions that you're working with are not frizzy. As I mentioned earlier, these are extensions that I prepped myself, but even when clients bring me extensions that are not in ideal state, I'll take 5 minutes to just go over it with that round brush to make sure that it's smooth. When you're working with smoothed out hair, curling it is already going to be a much easier process, and you're not going to get an unclean finish or like frizzy. The most you have to like worry about is taming flyaways, okay? And that comes from working with every single section and just treating it like it's very special, right? If you're just like quickly moving through it, you're not spraying the section, you're not preparing it, you're not polishing it before you pin it in place, then things are going to very quickly become messy and fly away. Maybe from a distance it will look fine, maybe in photos it'll photograph okay, but in person it won't be ideal, and longevity, it will suffer. So that is why I'm taking each section, curling, caressing, setting, securing, to ensure that all of these pieces amount to an overall clean, crispy, smooth finish.
A lot of love.
Pardon?
With a lot of love.
It was a lot of love, a lot of TLC. So I'm just gonna do this. I'm filling this side now.
Where do you buy your tools and your hair products?
Mostly Cosmoprof. Cosmoprof is a beauty supply store available for professionals. Like you need to show either a license or an affiliation with a school to be able to shop there. But at least the products that you purchase there, you purchase them at a lower price than regular consumers. Winners is another great place to find specific products. Like actually, Winners is notorious for having the shaper spray, so you can always find this at Winners. It's actually the same price in Winners as it is at Cosmoprof. But other products, Osis, for example, is now available. Where did I see it recently? It was like this. Oh my goodness! I like a very like regular store, like either No, it's not in Walmart. Potentially, it's available at Shoppers Drug Mart. This is a hairspray that I love, and it's inexpensive. I've shared this on Instagram. This is it usually goes on sale for like $4 to $5, and it is like helmet head kind of. It's called Blasting Free Spray, glued kind of, because hairspray is ultimately liquid glue. But this you can find at any drug mart, and it's very, very accessible. Redken I get from Cosmoprof. You can also check out Chatters. Chatters is a great store, although not easily accessible. They have a location in Ajax that opened recently. They carry almost everything that I'm using right now. So Amazon is another great source for most hair products. Sometimes you have to pay a bit of a premium price to get things there, but accessibility wise, you can find most of what I'm using on Amazon. So Amazon. Okay, so now we have this section to curl. Yeah, it's something that I didn't take into consideration, that I would blend in with the chair and the hair. I'm used to wearing black to blend in, actually. And I didn't realize that now is not the time to blend in. You know, I had prepared my larger barrel curling iron from Mint Tools, but I haven't touched it yet. I don't know if I will. With some hair, you know, when you're working like with really nice, thick, kind of dense hair, you can get away. It's just like faster to work with a larger barrel. But if I want to create a bit more intricate detail to really kind of like expand the look, a smaller barrel helps you create those smaller curls that I can then manipulate and break up to create the kind of movement that I want. But this kind of helps you kind of overcompensates a little bit, if that makes sense. Do we have any other questions, Chris? Yeah.
The whole of the hairspray,
Mm-hmm.
and how often you clean your tools.
How often I clean my tools? After every use. I clean my tools after every use. As for the hold of the hairspray, this is it's called a touchable, humidity resistant extra hold hairspray. It's called extra hold, but it's not extra hold. This is extra hold. This can like hold your whole credit together, everything, but this is not extra hold. Sometimes the labels don't mean as much as what the actual product does. What I like about the Sebastian Shaper is that it has a stickiness to it, which is something that I look for in hairsprays, because some hairsprays, I don't know, it just feels like you're spraying something on, but it doesn't have grip. It doesn't have that glue-like characteristic, you know, that actually helps to bind hair together. You know, if we want to create something, if we want to tame flyaways. So we have curled this. Now I need to fill this space, in which case I'm gonna grab this curl and bring it around. I'm gonna move this aside. You guys notice, right, where I'm pointing the hairspray, so I'm not spraying her chest or her clothes. Instead, I'm just spraying my chair. Then I accumulate so much hairspray on the chair. It's difficult. Like I posted yesterday that I washed my chair, and it feels so good, but it's so easy for the hairspray to just become a permanent resident on your chair. Okay, so I brought this around, okay? I put a pin through. Now I'm gonna push this in, okay? And again, there's more hair coming, so don't worry. And now I'm gonna take this. I'm gonna bring this around and bring it over here. All right? So now, because we're approaching the nape of our neck and this is a part that needs extra security, I'm gonna use this hairspray, give it a quick shake, and I love the nozzle of this, and I love how it mists the spray. You have to be careful with this though, because it does leave residue, okay? So you have to use it sparingly and from a good distance. Otherwise, it's gonna, especially on dark hair, it leaves a white cast that is difficult to get rid of later. All right, friends, so now this baby is getting its turn. I'm gonna take this piece. It's like it waited all day to go on stage, but its role is so small. I'm literally just going to, let's see, what can we do with this? I'm just gonna bring it here and pin it down like that, but with a jumbo pin so I can spread it. Okay, can we see this well, Pran? So I'm gonna do this. Okay, and I can do this? Okay, great. So I take this section, I'm manually spreading the hair, and then I'm coming here and just pushing it through. And again, guys, there's a lot more hair that's coming down, so I'm not worried about this looking perfect. I just want to fill empty gaps. All right. And now it's time to release some hair from here, from her head. And I'm going to continue with the diagonal part across. I'm gonna spray some of my thermal mist on it to tame that static. Now I'm taking my volumizing powder. Again, I'm going to link all of this. It's the KYK Magic Dust Volumizing Powder. Very lightly and carefully because it pumps a lot. Spray, and I'm just like lightly teasing the root so that when I clip on the extension, it has something to grasp onto. Okay, same thing here. Very lightly. 1, 2. 1, 2. Okay. I'm not curling this hair yet because I want to curl it along with the extensions. You want to go as close to the root as possible. Fran, could you zoom in to this? Fran? Everything okay? Okay. So I'm taking the clip. You basically want to go as close to the root as possible, dig it into the hair, and then close the clip. And then I'm just going to bring it all the way across. And it ends literally where her hairline is, which is perfect. And now I'm going to curl all of this hair, bring it further down on her braid, and then move on with her own hair. Any questions?
Maybe the smaller size of that.
Yes, definitely. Smaller. But I mean, this is the smallest that I would use on a style like this. I wouldn't go smaller than this because anything smaller than this starts to mimic naturally curly hair, not like styled curly hair, okay? But certainly using a smaller barrel really helps with curl longevity and just creating more texture and movement in the hair.
How do you clean it?
When it's warm, I take some alcohol and I just wipe it down. And if that's not enough, sometimes what I'll do is I will take not a non-sharp object like this and just going like this when the tool is disconnected, of course. But I'll do this to kind of scrape off all that residue, and then I'll wipe it down with alcohol. And if that doesn't work, I don't know if you should quote me on this, but a tool that has been disconnected, I'll just kind of hold it under some warm water, and with a slightly abrasive sponge, I'll try to wash it off. And I find that that helps. But that's for like a really, really stubborn residue. And really, we shouldn't let our tools get to that stage, you know? So this piece, I'm curling away from the face still because I think it's going to give me a good shape for the right placement. But the rest are going to start to come in the opposite direction. Okay, so now I'm going to take this and just like bring it to the front. I am really exaggerating and twisting this curl to get more texture here. And I'm gonna push this in like that. Okay. But because I don't want this piece to just be lingering and kind of detached from that piece, I'm gonna take a closed bobby pin and just pass it through this section to ensure that this curl is now secure to the base of the style. Sorry. Okay. Like a spray. And as I was saying, now we're going to start to add volume on the head so that the hairstyle looks good from all angles. So it's not just like flat hair, voluminous braid here. Everything needs to make sense and just harmoniously come and become like one piece. So in which case, I'm going to curl these pieces this way, okay? Because this will allow us to create that beautiful shape and movement. Now that I have her own hair to bind with the extensions, I feel like I need a little bit extra help. So I'm going to use very lightly the Stronghold hairspray. And these are things that when I work, I don't consciously think that, oh, now I'm going to do this because this is what's happening. I just naturally pick up the product that I know will help me reach the result that I want, you know? But ultimately, as I said, now that we're running out of extensions, so we're mostly working with her natural hair, the hair will respond differently. Okay, so now this piece, because this is the lowest section, we don't want to raise it up here and leave this part of the neck exposed. So I'm going to take this, and we have this to cover, right? I'm going to take my trusty bobby pin and across here, and now I'm twisting and just digging into the hair. Okay, and now, I mean, this is like literally asking you, put me here, twist me and pin me here. So that's what we're gonna do. Sorry guys if I keep going back and forth. Once again, I'm doing this, expanding the hair, doing that. And you can also visually see that now we're thickening the braid from here, okay? And what do we do with these pieces? You can just bring it here and loop it into one of the curls. Okay, there you go. And now, just for some extra security, I'm gonna do this. Securing another piece of the hair there. So every single section, guys, is placed very mindfully, very strategically, because we are building blocks. Okay, that's that. And here I have a lot of hair, and I feel like I can either do 2 large sections or I can do 3 smaller sections. I'm going to opt for 3 smaller sections because I want to fill more of this empty space here. Once again, I'm curling now towards the braid, okay? And I'm really just making sure that I'm curling the entire section. I'm not just stopping here because that's me ignoring a section of hair that I can add volume to, okay? So once again, I like to feed the hair into the curler from like 2 inches below the root and then move down, twist in. And then I come this close to the root without touching the scalp, of course, because that'll just burn the client. And now once I release this, now I have the possibility to do this if I want to, because I created the twist, right? So I'm going to twist this, dig it into whatever hair we have left here. Okay, and this is okay. This little gap here is okay because it's going to be filled in. And now I can take this and fill this gap right here. Look how cute. Yes, honestly, I always use my curlers on the maximum setting. It's important to also get a tool that goes up to 430 degrees, because that really speeds up your styling process. If it's something that doesn't heat up well enough, then your curls aren't going to hold, especially if you're doing a down style. I still feel like you can get away with creating an up style where the curls are secured and in place, but if you're doing a down style and relying on like a, I don't know, maximum 350 degree curling iron, you're going to suffer. Okay, so now guys, I'm taking this piece, and now I don't have access to this ponytail here, so I'm going to have to twist and cross this to her hair, okay? And this is what we get. And now because I use that big pin, I can just pull on the hair to expand that. And then I'm bringing this around and attaching it to the braid. Okay, we can let this just drop because I feel like it's cute and romantic. Frizz? Mm-hmm. So as I mentioned, it all starts with the right prep, making sure that the hair that you're working with is smoothed out fully. If somebody comes with you with frizzy hair and you start to curl out frizzy hair, you're gonna have to curl it time and again until you smooth out the cuticle and lose that frizz. And so you're just making your life easier by like prepping the hair, smoothing it all out, and then doing your curl. But I think you might be confusing also. I think some people confuse frizz with flyaways, because frizz is when the hair, okay, let me show you. More or less, this could be considered like frizzy hair because it's not perfectly smoothed out, right? So if you curl hair that has this like slight texture to it, it is gonna look frizzy. But flyaways are the shorter pieces of hair that stick out, which is why I take all those steps in like spraying the section, curling, and then spraying again, and then massaging the product into the hair, because that helps to bind those little flyaways to the longer sections of hair. When you're using hairspray or that heat protectant spray and then you add heat to it, the heat helps to activate that product and to work actually. It's like a hot glue gun. It's no good if it's cold, but once you warm it up, then the glue becomes activated and it can do its job. All right. So now I'm just going to, do you see this is empty? Now I'm just going to fill this in and then we're good. Okay? And now I'm going to pin this right up here, and then I feel like this is sitting in a really good position on the nape of the neck. Yeah, so as I mentioned, now I'm also working with her own hair. I have one clip of extensions left that I still need to decide where I'm going to place it, but now it's her own hair, and her own hair has a different texture from the extensions, and it's more flyaways. So I'm finding that by using this, I can control those flyaways more quickly than by using the hairspray that I've been using so far. Okay. Like I said, it's just something that kind of naturally comes to you at some point.